Welcome back to 101.5 FM. You're with Bethia and the kids from Mount Mee State School. You just heard Shadowboxer by the Angels. Today we are very fortunate to be joined by the Environment and Heritage Protection. Welcome, Mr. Powell, and thank you for joining us today.
You're very welcome, Bethia. It's great to be here with the Mount Mee Radio Kids.
Well, what does a typical day look like as Minister for the Environment and Heritage Protection?
Well, Bethia, there's no such thing as a typical day for the Minister for Environment and Heritage Protection. No 2 days are the same. What I will say, though, is most Mondays are involved in Cabinet. So we kick off Cabinet pretty early in the morning, and sometimes we knock that over by the early afternoon. Sometimes we go into the evening. So Mondays is pretty much tied up with Cabinet and party room meetings. But let's use yesterday as a fairly typical day for me. I was up in the car at 5 o'clock. We drove up from my home up on the Sunshine Coast to Tin Can Bay. I got out and we fed the dolphins and did a press conference about some great things that we're doing with the Tin Can Bay community to ensure that we can keep feeding those dolphins up there. Jumped back in the car, drove back to my electorate of Glasshouse up to the electorate office in Mullaney. Then did a media conference at Mary Cancross Park about some great tourism initiatives that are going on in our part of the world. Then I jumped in the car again and drove down to Glasshouse Mountains, and we had what is the highlight of my year, where we recognise all the volunteers that do such fabulous work throughout the electorate, and we had an afternoon tea with those, finished that off and tried to get back and have dinner with my family. So there's a one possible typical day in the life of the Minister of Environment and Heritage Protection.
Okay. Tomorrow yourself and other community members from Glasshouse are engaging in the collaborative summit named the Queensland Plan, a 30-year vision for our state. What areas in Queensland development are to be discussed at this summit, and how do you see the outcomes from these discussions develop from a vision into reality?
Well, thank you very much for that question, and I actually have to leave this interview to race down to the airport to fly off to Mackay, so it's very timely too. But I do need to just reassure listeners that what's happening in Mackay isn't the process itself. We're not doing the vision tomorrow in Mackay. What we're doing with the 400 guests that are joining us up there is to come up with the questions that we want to put to you as kids, to your mums and dads, to everyone around Queensland over the next few months. So the real work around the Queensland Plan about developing that vision for 30 years will actually occur between May and October. And I'm going to be doing a whole stack of things around this part of the world where I want to hear from you what the answers to those questions should be, and therefore how that vision should take form. But the important thing is, I don't have much ownership of this. This is really about Queenslanders as a whole having a say in what they want Queensland to look like in 30 years. And I imagine you as Year 6, 7 students would be particularly interested in seeing what it looks like in 30 years' time, since you'll probably be the leaders of our great state about that time.
It has been reported in the Courier Mail that the state government is in the process of reopening logging in 2 million hectares of environmentally sensitive land put aside by the previous government. What consultation has been undertaken to make this current proposal for the government?
Look, first of all, what I will say is don't believe everything you read in the Courier Mail. Secondly, what we are doing is we're looking at all of the public land, the protected land that we have as a state, and trying to work out whether we are managing it to the best of its ability. So in some cases, we've got national parks. At the moment, we've got resources that are fairly stretched in terms of managing them for great outcomes. The previous government did switch a lot of state forest over to national park. We're having a look at that, whether it's got great conservation values. But also, yes, we're looking at the possibility of reinstating a forestry industry, but let me be very clear, this isn't a case of a couple of bulldozers with a big chain tied between them running down a hill clearing all the trees. What most people who operate in state forests do is they'll select 1 or 2 trees at a time, go in and take those trees out, let the forest recover, take another tree out every now and then. So just what you often read in the paper is very alarmist and very, in some cases, hysterical, but the reality is often far from that.
Thanks, Mr. Powell. After the break, we will be continuing our interview with Andrew Powell, state member for the Glasshouse.
We're here in the 101.5 FM studios with Mr. Andrew Powell, Minister of the Environment and Heritage Protection. As we promised, here are some more questions with today's guest. 4. At our school, we are lucky to have the Richard Thomas Environmental Centre. a veggie garden, and a recycling program that us kids are very passionate about. What are some of the actions that the state government is driving to deliver a sustainable future for Queenslanders?
That's a great question, Kai, and having been up to your school, I know how passionate you are about that veggie patch of yours and also the Richard Thomas Environmental Centre. I really want to commend you guys for doing that great work. Look, one of the really cool initiatives that I get to be a part of is a thing called Everyone's Environment Grants. Now, we put these grants out, we put them out last year, and we've just announced the second round this year. $3 million went out last year for 72 projects, and they range from about $2,000 up to about $100,000 for those projects. And they're great because they allow us to do things like deal with weeds and pests, plant trees, clean up creeks, test the water quality in those creeks, make sure we're getting good outcomes. In some cases, some community groups got together with their local school, or the P&C even got together, and they put in one of those applications as well. Well, the next round's just been announced. There's $4 million available this year, and applications close at the end of May. So I really encourage land care groups and coast care groups, catchment care groups, schools, scouts, everyone who has a passion for the environment to have a look at that on our EHP website and get their applications in before the end of the month.
The Premier Sustainability Awards are to be held in June. What do these awards acknowledge, and will these continue to be an incentive for community groups to continue looking after the environment?
Look, I hope they will be. What the awards are about is recognising those people that do those fantastic things that you and I were just talking about. So what we do is we recognise community groups, we recognise businesses. There's an education category, so every year we have a look at a school that's doing some amazing things, and I reckon Mount Mee should, I'm not on the judging panel, so I have to declare that up front. I can't show any preference, but I reckon Mount Mee should think about putting in an application for one of those sustainability awards in future years. Look, I hope that they do provide an incentive to the community groups to say, you know, this is something that we can strive for, not only to get the award, but to get the outcome as well, which is, as you say, sustainability, making sure that we're getting the balance right between wanting to have jobs and making sure that we look after the environment in which we live.
Coal seam gas is again a very topical issue in the media, especially the current concerns that farmers are seeing environmental problems such as rivers bubbling with methane, bore water pollution, and the falling of groundwater levels as shown on the recent 7:30 report on the ABC. What is the government's position on the collection of coal seam gas, and is the collection of this energy source really worth the environmental risk?
Look, that's a really good question. And yes, certainly, again, when you see things on the media, it creates a lot of concern. But I've always said that I'm going to make decisions based on science and not politics. I did a science degree at university, so I know how to have a look at what the science tells me, and I know how to use that science to make decisions. And what the science is telling me at the moment is that we can manage those risks. You're right, one of the big concerns we've got is the water. To say that I'm not concerned about that would be a lie. I am, so I keep a very close eye on it. But there's one thing that we did. What we've got now is a thing called the Underground Water Impact Report for all of that area where the coal seam gas is occurring, particularly out in the Surat Basin. And what we've been able to do through a number of bores, a lot of farmers have bores out there, is predict what the effect will be on the aquifers, the water tables sitting under the ground, with the result of the coal seam gas industry. And it gives us a lot of certainty, and it actually says to us that there's very few bores, considering how many there are, that will actually be impacted, and those impacts will have to be offset by the companies that are doing the work. So I work very hard with the coal seam gas companies to make sure that they make good, which is a word that we use to make sure that they repair the water losses that some of those farmers are getting. So we're making sure we're doing that. We've got this group called the Gasfields Commission also operating out there on the Surat Basin. They're doing a fantastic job of working with landholders to hear what their concerns are, and then coming to us as the government and telling us how we might be able to assist to get better outcomes for the landholders. What we're seeing is some great partnerships, and we hope that continues. But again, I just encourage people to have a look at the science as well. If anyone has any questions, we've got a lot of information again up on our website, which is www.ehp.qld.gov.au, and we can also direct you to that Underground Water Impact Report I was just talking about.
On curiosity personally, is the coal seam gas affecting the fish populations in the areas?
That's the first time I've had that question. I haven't had any reports of impacts on the fish. Are you a fisherman?
Yes, and they're my favourite animals.
They're your favourite animals? Yeah, no, look, we keep an eye on those kind of things, and certainly if any landholders have any concerns or are alarmed about that or see anything that they think is a bit strange, I'd encourage them to report it to my department. We do have investigators who will go out and have a look at those things, but I haven't had any reports yet on fish activity in that way.
As a society, the technology exists to produce electricity through alternatives to coal and gas. What do you believe are the biggest inhibitors to these being used as our sole power supply? And how is the state government promoting these alternative power sources?
Look, that's a great question again. The short answer is that we still need to spend a lot of money in research development of those alternative power energy supplies. Look, solar's great, but solar only works when the sun's up. And often what we need to do is use power when the sun's down. I get up before the sun's up and I have to have a hot shower. Well, I'd like to have a hot shower. It tends to wake me up a bit. And solar's not much good then. Similarly, we throw the kids in the bath at night. We're cooking dinner. It's dark. The sun's gone down. What we've got to do is get those power sources right. So I know a lot of work's been going into developing batteries that store the solar power during the day that can be then used overnight. And they're the kind of things we need to look at. We need to get those cheaper because currently they're still a lot more expensive than the other forms of producing energy, which in this state are coal and gas-fired power stations. In terms of what we're doing, we are working with the Commonwealth Government. And the Commonwealth Government, as you know, now has the carbon price. The money that's being raised for that is ideally the avenue in which should be putting money back into that research and development that I spoke about. At the state level, we've got to do a job of working with our communities to make sure they're ready for a changing climate. And what we've seen in the last couple of years with big floods, cyclones, a lot more frequently, droughts still going on in northwest Queensland, is that our climate does change, but what we're seeing is some more of these extreme events, and my job as the Environment Minister in this state is to help the community prepare for those kind of things.
Join us after this short break for 10 fast facts about our guest today, Andrew Powell.
Welcome back, and you're with the kids from Mount Mee State School, and today's interview guest, Andrew Powell, State MP for Glasshouse. Here we go with 10 fast facts about our guest today. Place of birth?
I was actually born in Melbourne. Don't hold that against me, though. My parents are from Queensland. They just happened to be working down there at the time.
Favourite place to holiday?
I love the Fraser Coast area, and I particularly like a place called Woodgate.
Yeah. Favourite colour?
Would definitely be blue.
Number of brothers and sisters?
I have 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Early riser or a night owl?
In this job, I have to be both, unfortunately. I'm usually on the road by 5 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes it's 11 o'clock at night before I get home.
Tight schedule, that.
A long schedule, that.
Favourite TV show?
Oh, I love The Big Bang Theory. I'm a bit of a nerd myself, and I scored a pretty good-looking woman in my wife as well, so it's pretty similar to my real-life experience.
Righto. Favourite actor or actress?
Now, might not know this guy, but he's a guy by the name of Colin Firth. The King's Speech, fantastic performance.
Yeah, I don't know who he is.
Yeah, we'll let that one, but
Yep.
you can grow up a little bit more before you watch that one, I think.
If you could do any job in the world, what would it be?
I reckon I'm doing it. I reckon being a member of Parliament and representing a fantastic part of the world like Glasshouse that includes Mount Mee is as good as it gets.
Well, that's pretty good. If you could invite anyone to dinner, who would it be?
My family.
That's the way to go. Have you ever spent an entire day in your pyjamas?
Oh, boy. Off the top of my head, the answer's probably no, but I know when I was a teenager I did try to perfect the art of sleeping through Saturday. So there probably was one occasion where I managed to pull it off.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us on the station today.
Thank you very much, Brody. It's been a pleasure.
That's right. That was Andrew Powell, Minister of the Environmental and Heritage Protection on 101.5 FM. We're bringing more to the Moreton Bay region. Coming up within the hour, we have community announcements, Mount Mee news, and a real talent challenge for our teacher. The time is now 1:30, and that was Ho Hey by the Luminaires. You're listening to Bethia and the Mount Mee Radio Kids on 101.5 FM. It is now time for Mount Mee Moves on the air and community announcements. First one, weekend track closure, the Caboolture train line. Track work will occur on the Caboolture train line this weekend, Saturday the 11th of May and Sunday the 12th of May. On Sunday the 12th of May, from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m, and again from 9:30 p.m. to the last train, buses will replace trains on the Caboolture line between Northgate and Caboolture stations. Full details can be found on the Transleague website. Rural Fire Service Day. Come along to the Mount Mee Rural Fire Station and meet the men and women volunteers behind your local brigade and learn how to prepare your family and home against the threat to bushfires. There is a free sausage sizzle on offer, and Blazer Bear will have gifts for the kids. So come along on Saturday the 1st of June between 2 to 4 p.m. and that Mount Mee Fire Station at the Mount Mee Fire Station on Thomas Road, Mount Mee. Monday the 13th of May to Saturday the 25th of May is the Ryby Island Library Mash It Up Instagram photo exhibition. Between December 2012 and January 2013, Mash It Up entrants shared photos using Instagram to capture the theme, reflection, view, and exhibition of the top 10 finalists photos as it tours our libraries. Come and see the great photographic talents we have in Moreton Bay region. On Saturday the 11th of May, the Bay community markets are on from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Located at the corner of Higgs Street and Deception Bay Road. They have on offer arts and crafts, fruits and veggies, and lots and lots more. Come on down and check out the great bargains. Finally, the Mount Mee Hall is hosting the ever-popular Symphony on the Mountain on Sunday the 26th of May starting at 2 p.m. Be sure to get your tickets early as this event is always packed to the rafters. Come on and enjoy the 40th anniversary of St. Lucia Orchestra, who will be playing a host of your best love compositions. For bookings, phone Kay Wells on 54982014.
Well, that's it for today's announcement. Keep listening to your favourite radio station, 101.5 FM. Every week we'll be presenting to our listeners a little bit of history of Mount Mee. This week we have Florence Evelyn Thomas, known by all of the Mount Mee residents as Auntie Florrie. Auntie Florrie was born on the 27th of October 1881. She was daughter of the Mr. Richard Thomas, one of the first residents of Mount Mee. Auntie Florrie was the first white child born on Mount Mee, so she spent her early days playing with the Aboriginal children. She lived all of her life on the original family property, Damonga, which is an Aboriginal name meaning little squirrel. Auntie Florrie was the postmistress at Mount Mee for 39 years, giving up in 1963. One former resident remembered her as having a box of apples behind the counter, from which she gave an apple to each child as they called in for their mail on the way home from school. The mail was delivered 3 times a week by horse from Woodford. She was also called the telephonist. Auntie Florrie was actively involved in the sports committee, the hall committee, the school, the local church and the Queensland Country Women's Association. One of her loves was tennis and encouraged children of the district to take this sport up. A tennis court was constructed by the school, funded by Auntie Florrie in memory of her father, the first principal of the Mount Mee State School. A past resident can remember her presenting books on break-up day. She was not too sure if Auntie Florrie or the school committee bought the books. This was a tradition Auntie Florrie did for many years. Even some of the children of this resident had her present books.
Her other loves were gardening, music, and knitting. Another tradition of Auntie Florrie was to knit a pair of booties for each child that was born on Mount Mee. Auntie Florrie was a popular person on Mount Mee. This was evident at her funeral at the Albany Creek Crematorium, where a large crowd of Mount Mee residents attended this day in the rain. She died on 5th of May 1967. Every week we'll be presenting to our listeners a little bit of keep listening to your favourite station, 101.5 FM. Well, it's now time for Are You Smarter Than Your Teacher? Of course we are. Every week we challenge our fantastic, intelligent and modest teacher aide, Lisa Chapman. She put them in there with 5 questions about an unseen topic. Today's topic is Rome. Good luck, Lisa. I think you're going to need it.
Holy dooly, Rome. Well, we'll see how we go.
Well, what type of footwear did an ordinary Roman citizen wear with his toga?
A Roman sandal.
Hang on, Woo.
Oh.
You've got some options. We've made it easy for you this week.
Oh.
Sandals with leather soles. That's A. B is leather boots with 2 long straps that wrap around the ankles. And C is leather boots that lace up at the front.
Sandals. It's Roman sandals.
Well, which one? A?
A.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. It's C. Leather boots that lace up at the front.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's not a good start. What's the next question, Brady?
Well, next you've got... How were some of the criminals punished in ancient Rome?
Well, were they put into as gladiators into the main arena and they had to fight off tigers?
Yes.
Ah,
there you go.
thank goodness.
You got one.
I watched Gladiator the movie, so it gave me a heads up.
They definitely got turned into gladiators. So, 3. Did the ancient Romans invent the shopping mall?
Yes, I'm going to say yes, because they were actually very clever. I know that they developed a lot of things, so it wouldn't surprise me if they developed a shopping mall.
Well, you got that one right.
Oh my goodness, 2. I'm on a roll.
You're on a roll, yes. Number 3. What country is Rome for the capital of today? France, Italy, Germany, Greece, or Spain?
Italy.
Yay! You got that right.
So I got 3.
You've got 3. Now, you can level it with last week.
Does that mean I am smarter than you children? Let's see.
Yeah.
Last one.
No, I think it is, because if she gets less than 3, if she gets 3, we're even.
Righto.
So, how did people in ancient Egypt have their baths?
How did they? As in what?
Ancient Rome.
Oh, the baths. They were communal places. The baths were like pools, and they'd all sort of bathe themselves in these open pools. Yes. That were heated.
Yes.
Yeah.
They rarely had their baths inside their homes. Instead, they went to the public bath, where children were not allowed. Well,
just as well.
Today you got 4 out of 5.
It is.
Well
it is
done,
the truth.
Lisa.
I am smarter than you children.
Next, we've got you before plenty of time, Spot. Next week, we might need to make the questions a bit harder.
Bring it on.
It's on. Keep listening to 101.5 as we continue bringing more to the Moreton Bay region.
The time is now 1:50 p.m. and you're with Kai on the 101.5 FM. If your day isn't going too well, don't worry. We'll try and cheer you up with some very weird facts and beyond useless information. Here goes. Did you know that a duck's quack doesn't echo, and no one knows why? Like fingerprints, everyone's tongue print is different. Mosquito repellents don't repel, they hide you. The spray blocks the mosquito's senses so they don't know you're there. The liquid inside young coconuts can be used as a substitute for blood plasma. No piece of paper can be folded in half more than 7 times.
We'll be right back after these things.
You're back with Kai and the Mee Radio Kids. We are now going to give you a chance for your brain. Here we go for today's riddle. The person who makes it sells it. The person who buys it never uses it, and the person who uses it doesn't know that they are. What is it? We'll be right back after these songs to give you the answer.
Welcome back. The riddle for this week was the person who sells it, the person who makes it sells it, the person who buys it never uses it, and the person who uses it doesn't know they are there. What is it? The answer is a coffin. Thanks for tuning in to 101.5 FM for show from the Mee Radio Kids. Whoops. Remember, if you have any comments or feedback, we would love to hear about it. You can contact the 101.5 station through the website www.1015fm.com.au or via email radio@1015fm.com.au. The Mee Radio Kids will be back broadcasting next week for another exciting show. Until then, bye from Brody,
Kai and Bethia.
Thank you.